Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for the tardiness, but because of me, they've implemented Indian time. So, my name is Stephen Buffalo. I'm from the Samson Cree Nation, the Treaty 6 area. However, been a proud Calgarian for the last 20 years and a die-hard Flames fan. Very honored to be part of the Alberta panel. Tonight, we acknowledge that we're in Treaty 7 territory, home of the Blackfoot Confederacy of the Siksika, Kainai, and Piikani nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina and the Stodinakona, Chiniki, Bears Paw, and Goodstoney, as well as Métis Nation Region 3. For all the people who came before us and all who will come after us and all that are here tonight, let's have a great discussion about our province. Now, I'd like to introduce a good friend of mine, a former teammate at Junior B. I have to verify to his son tonight that he did play Junior B hockey. He got 2 minutes in total penalties for too many men on the ice. You know, and he has a face for hockey, right? This pretty face. So, you know, my good friend, Bruce McAllister.
Thank you. Thanks, buddy. You're a funny man. Good evening. If you've been watching these things online, you know that Buffalo needs a new joke book because he uses the same one at every panel. And what's actually quite funny about it is he's bragging about our time in Junior B. Meantime, Grant Fagerheim on the panel over here played like 8 games with the New York Islanders way back when. So we actually do have a hockey player with us. Yeah. So let me start by saying good evening. What a crowd. How nice to see you all here. It's fabulous. This is democracy. My name is Bruce McAllister, and I'm happy to be your moderator tonight. I'm really looking forward to it. The Premier of Alberta is here with us tonight. We're going to talk about some thorny issues with Ottawa. We're going to talk about our relationship with the federal government, some of the things that have happened in the last 10 years and beyond that we might like to address. We're here to gather your input tonight for sure and hear what your suggestions and ideas and concerns might be. We have assembled an amazing panel. These are regular Albertans like you. They care deeply about their province like you. So we're just thrilled to have them. How about a round of applause for all these folks tonight? I'll introduce you to them one by one here in a bit, but a few housekeeping rules to go over, and I always say this at the start. Most of these rules won't apply to the great majority of you, but there will be some. So here they are. Number one, please be respectful and mind your language. And my 4-month-old grandson is right in the front row tonight, so we don't want him hearing anything that he wouldn't learn from his dad. We ask that you limit yourselves to one question tonight. This is a huge crowd, so I'm going to explain how things go and your opportunity to come to the microphone, but we'll try to keep everybody but once to the mic. And we need questions to be on topic. And that's not to say that there aren't things going on in the province that aren't very, very important and probably important to you. But tonight we are here, and to all of us for that matter, but tonight we are here to talk about our relationship with Ottawa, what comes next for Alberta, how we might improve upon that. So we'll keep it to a few topics, and I'll explain what those are in a few minutes. But first, let's meet our panel for the Alberta Next Panel. The chair of our panel is Premier Danielle Smith. We have our newly elected, or newest elected MLA, Tara Sawyer from Old Stidsbury Three Hills. Dr. Benny Zhu, with 30 years of experience in acupuncture. Many of you in Calgary probably know him well. Dr. Benny. The president of the Business Council of Alberta, Adam Legg, is with us on the panel. My friend, Stephen Buffalo, who is also president and CEO of the Indian Resource Council of Canada. Stephen. The person who definitely gets the second loudest ovation goes to the Minister of Environment and Protected Areas, Rebecca Schultz, who's on our panel. Dr. Trevor Toome from the University of Calgary is with us. We're thrilled to have Dr. Toome. A family doctor in Didsbury, Dr. Aiken Okaswati. If you don't know how to pronounce something, just say it with confidence. MLA Glenn Van Dyken is here as well, a great rural champion for rural Albertans. Sunita Aman is the chair of the Premier's Council on Multiculturalism. The vice chairman of the Prairies of the Fraser Institute, Andrew Judson, is here tonight. And I mentioned Grant Fagerheim, the president, the boss at Whitecap Resources, and the former New York Islander, which we won't hold against them. So I promised to set the scene for you and explain how we can all participate and how we're going to have a great evening, and I'm going to do that in just a minute. But first, I think it'd be remiss if I didn't call on the Premier to come on up and say good evening and set the tone for us.
Well, good evening, and thank you all for coming. I know we took a few minutes to make sure everybody could get in the room, and it looks like we've got a packed house, so thank you for coming out. I know that we're coming to the end of summer, and there's lots of things you could have been doing this evening, so thank you for spending your time with us this evening. I'm also happy to be here with my fellow panelists, as well as a few of my colleagues from the legislature. I understand MLA Dale Nally is here, Minister of Service Alberta and Rent Tape Reduction, as well as MLA Eric Bouchard. I think Miles McDougall signed up. I don't know if he's come in the room yet. Oh, I hear a wave in the back there as well. I understand as well Councillor Giancarlo Carra may be here, as well as Chief Ord Crowfoot from Siksika. Welcome to all of the elected council members. And those of you running for office too. I know we're in the middle of the municipal election, so if you're here as well, thank you for taking this part in this today. After a very busy and productive summer, this is the final in-person town hall for the Alberta Next Panel. And I do want to thank each of our panelists for being here tonight and throughout the process as we literally crisscrossed across the province to engage directly with you, the people who live in Alberta. It's fitting to close this engagement tour in Calgary, which is our province's biggest city and largest economic driver. It's a place that's gone from strength to strength as it's evolved as a cultural hub, a player in clean energy, in the creative industries, and increasingly as a preferred location for venture capital investment. And of course, as Canada's energy capital, this great city's fortunes have been closely connected with the oil and gas industry, an industry that has brought tremendous prosperity and population growth here over the years. Defending our energy industry is a theme that's come up in every Alberta Next event. Albertans, of course, have strong opinions about it. Being here in Calgary reminds us what this industry means for our province. And I want to thank you all for coming to share your thoughts with us today and for choosing to participate in this crucial engagement process. The conversations we have tonight and have had throughout the Alberta Next engagement period will help to shape the future of our province. And I'd encourage you to go and look at the last time we had a panel similar to this. It was the Fair Deal panel, and they came up with 25 recommendations that have guided the work of our government in the last 5 years. For instance, we had the equalization referendum that came out of the Fair Deal panel discussions. The panel wanted us to introduce or to reduce internal trade barriers, which we've done across the country. They wanted us to create economic corridors, and we have signed many economic corridors agreements, most recently with Ontario and Saskatchewan, as well as with Yukon. They wanted us to challenge federal legislation in our areas of jurisdiction, and we've got 15 lawsuits and counting going in that regard. Establish a chief firearms officer, which we did. Create a presence in Ottawa. Yeah. Create a presence in Ottawa, and we now have an office in Ottawa with a person who's there full-time representing us. Diversifying our energy sector, and we have done that in spades, and also relentlessly pursuing more market access. We continue to do that, as well as referenda, and in particular citizen-initiated referenda. Those ideas all came out of the Fair Deal panel, and that's just an example of the kind of ideas that we hope can come out of this type of process and that we'll hear from you tonight. For 10 years, of course you know, Ottawa has taken direct aim at Alberta's core industries, from Bill C-69 to the tanker ban, the oil and gas emission cap, which works as a production cap, and net zero mandates on electricity and vehicles, among others. In just the last 10 years alone, we estimate more than $500 billion in investment capital destined for our resource sector has disappeared. It's cost us hundreds of thousands of jobs and hundreds of billions of GDP and resource royalties that would have been able to be used on healthcare and education and public infrastructure. If Canada is going to be a strong and unified country, it must include a strong and sovereign Alberta within a united Canada, able to pursue our own potential without being held back by our own country and our own federal government. Our negotiating team has had very positive discussions with the federal government, but we do need to see action, and we need to see it soon. But of all the topics we're discussing tonight, they're all worth talking about, because Albertans deserve to have a say in all of these issues. And regardless what each of us believes about these issues or which path we think is best, as Albertans we must be able to respectfully debate and discuss issues here with our friends and our family members and our neighbours. And I know that if we do that, in the end, our province will find the best solutions for the immense challenges we face, and we will come out stronger and freer than ever. So I will put my faith in Albertans to find the right path. I trust you, and I look forward to hearing from you tonight. Over to you, Bruce.
Okay, let's get going. We have prepared 6 very short videos for you tonight, and we hope that they will lay out the topic very well, give you the pros and cons of an issue. And what we're going to do, we play the video. The 6 topics are as follows. The first one is equalization and transfers. The second will be the Alberta Pension Plan, or proposed pension plan. The third would be a provincial police force. We'll discuss constitutional changes, immigration reform, and also provincial tax collection. So we'll play a video, and while that video plays, you know, hopefully, I would imagine many of you have great context on these issues anyway, but when the video is done playing, you can line up at the microphone. We've got 2 of them in the room, and you'll be able to come to the mic and speak for 45 seconds on the topic that we just discussed. So again, if your question is on immigration reform, just be patient. We're going to get to that video at number 5. If it's on the provincial police force, we'll get to that one too. But the first one will be on equalization and transfers. If it's not, they're going to ask me to do the uncomfortable thing of reminding you that we need to stay on topic. And I guarantee you there'll be somebody that will try that. So I'm not a meanie when I shut the mic off and say, no, we have to stay on topic. Are you with me on that tonight? Thank you. And if you have questions that are really concerning on issues that aren't here tonight, the good news is MLA Eric Bouchard and Ministers McDougall and Nally are here, and they are just waiting to talk to you about all those other issues. So we'll assign them the work, okay, tonight? So with that, this is about our province's future, about our relationship with the federal government, and about getting your ideas and your feedback and questions about what we might do differently, if you think we should. So why don't we get ready to roll the first video, and the first video is on equalization and transfers.
Our next topic is reforming federal equalization and transfers. Since 2005, Alberta taxpayers have contributed, on average, $23 billion more per year to the federal government in federal taxes than they received back in projects, benefits, and other spending from Ottawa. That's a net loss to Albertans of nearly $500 billion in just 20 years. Most of those redistributed Alberta tax dollars are spent by Ottawa and Quebec and other liberal-leaning provinces across the country. And part of that massive fiscal transfer out of Alberta comes through the Federal Equalization Program, which has seen Alberta pay over $67 billion into the program since 1957, while receiving back not a single penny since 1965. In 2021, Albertans voted in a referendum to remove equalization from the Constitution, but Ottawa completely ignored us. So what next? Alberta can't stop these federal transfers on its own. The Alberta government doesn't write a check to Ottawa each year, and we can't ask Albertans to stop paying their federal taxes. The fact is, fixing this problem will require political support from other provinces. One option that would be appealing to most other provinces is to have the provinces collect a larger share of overall taxes. This is how it could work. Currently, Ottawa collects over 60% of all the federal and provincial taxes that Canadians pay. The Ottawa bureaucracy takes its portion, with the remainder inefficiently and unequally distributed to the provinces. The dollars we do get back have a lot of strings attached, forcing us to run our provincial programs and build infrastructure the way Ottawa wants us to. No provinces want that, especially the big ones like Quebec, Ontario, BC, and Alberta. What if we cut out the middleman and instead had provincial governments that are responsible for delivering health, education, and social services collect around 60% of all taxes, with Ottawa receiving the rest? Ottawa, in turn, would be able to end most transfer programs to the provinces, along with all the strings, bureaucracy, and waste attached to them. Quebec has already proposed having the federal government let provinces keep GST revenue generated in their provinces in return for ending the federal health transfer. Seems like a great idea. Why not apply that same logic to all federal transfers? Less money collected and wasted in Ottawa. Less federal transfers with only a modest amount of equalization for the smallest provinces and territories that actually need it. And more funds for provincial health, education, and other programs, without strings attached by Ottawa's politicians and bureaucrats. That seems like something most provinces could rally behind. So what say you, Alberta? Should Alberta take a lead role in working with the other provinces to reform federal transfers and equalization by having the provinces collect a larger share of overall taxes, with Ottawa collecting less? And are there any other strategies Alberta should be looking at to alleviate the massive federal fiscal drain to Alberta? For more information, visit alberta.ca/next.
This is usually the time when people rush to the microphone to be the first to speak. So we'll give it a second. Let's go over here. Go ahead. Do you have a comment or a question on the subject that we're talking about?
Good evening, Premier and panel members. My name is Yin Yang. I immigrated to Canada 20 years ago from China, currently working as a registered nurse with Alberta Health Services. First of all, please allow me to express my deep appreciation for Premier for your courage and conviction in standing up to Ottawa. It takes real leadership to act. Thank you. It takes real leadership to act for the best interest of our province. In responding to your question, quote, do we want to be like Quebec in managing our own matters, unquote? My answer is absolutely yes. Alberta allocates nearly 40% of province budget into healthcare, yet we struggling each day across the system. Imagine if we invest
Yes.
the 23 billion back to our system, education,
Yes.
healthcare,
Gotcha.
infrastructure, cutting edge technology.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you know why I'm stopping you? Because you're like 2 minutes and it's 45 seconds, and I just want to get to as many people as we can, so I have to set a precedent with you. But it was a great comment, wouldn't you all agree, for kicking us off tonight? Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, let's try the other microphone and get it going. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Daryl Comic. Like many people here, we actually went and created a town hall called The Courage to Listen, developing and building a framework for sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. We published a book that has the framework in it, and I noticed tonight you deal with 5 topics. We actually deal with 28 topics, and all of them are within the means of the Alberta government to drive sovereignty for Alberta. Now, on top of that, we said, well, what if Alberta actually wanted to deal with equalization? And we found a way to actually keep the $23 billion. In fact, we found a way to keep $60 billion. And the rest of it is actually explained in the document, which I would like to share with the panel.
That's it?
That's it.
Wow.
Okay?
Thank you.
I'll come back with them, okay?
And And Daryl, 45 seconds, almost spot on. So thank you tonight. Let's kick this off with Professor Toom, because I think there's some interesting numbers on equalization and transfers that you bring to the equation. Do you want to jump in here, Professor, and then I'll go back to the mics?
Yeah, I'll just quickly comment that I think this is, for me at least, one of the more important issues to think about. It always has been since the beginning. All right, let me try that again. Since the beginning of Confederation. Great. Okay, I'll be very quick while this gets sorted out. So it's been about 20 years now since the federal government took a hard look at programs like equalization. And these are tough programs. Canada is a very diverse country with economies that vary significantly from one part of the country to another. And circumstances change, and our transfer programs should change with them. I mean, they're there for a good reason, to help ensure that poorer provinces can deliver comparable public services, but that the design details matter a lot. And the challenges that different provinces face are different now than they were prior to the financial crisis. And there's ways that the program can be improved upon to have incentives for recipient provinces to develop their economies, develop their resources. And I think one just for me stands out, and that's power pricing in Quebec. That's a considerable amount of resource revenues for that province, and it has currently the lowest electricity prices in the country. And if it chose to increase those power prices by just 2 cents a kilowatt hour, still have the cheapest power prices of any province, but it would raise so much more resource revenues for its government that it wouldn't qualify for as much equalization. I estimate their payment this year would be about $4.2 billion smaller, just this year alone, from that small change to power pricing. And that's just one example of some possible changes that we should think about to the program. And it's not just a conversation for Alberta. I mean, throughout history, different provinces raise concerns with transfers, and typically, the federal government is responsive to those concerns, and I think it should be now as well.
Thanks, Trevor. I promise throughout the night we'll hear from everybody up here at least once. You may hear from the Premier and others much more, but I promise it'll be with good context. Let's go over here.
Hi, my name is Flora, and I'm a grade 12 student living in Alberta. And every day at school, I see classrooms are overcrowded and the hallways are always packed with students. And I truly believe that education is essential for Alberta's future, but it's getting really hard for the students to learn well in this environment. Yeah. I know that Alberta is sending a lot of money to the federal government, but our own province is also facing challenges. So I believe Alberta should keep some of our own money to invest in what matters here, like education. More funding for schools means smaller classes, better learning, and a stronger Alberta. Thank you.
Okay. Premier, we'd like to keep some more of our money too, wouldn't we?
Well, look, I see we've got pretty long lineups, Bruce. I'll keep my comments short until I've heard from a few more folks.
Okay, done. Let's start here.
Hi, I'm Adele. Yesterday, the Liberal Parliamentary Budget Officer announced that Canada's finances are so bad we may cease to exist as a country in about 12 months. What are we doing to protect ourselves from that? What are we doing to keep our money in Alberta instead of sending it away for them to rob and whatever the heck?
Yeah. Yeah, we all heard those comments, believe me. Yeah. Premier, I think you better answer that one.
Well, I may have to ask Trevor Toom on this one, because I don't know if Canada can go bankrupt. I know that we have hit a debt wall nearly in the past in 1993. And that resulted in a massive restructuring of the federal government. We're in really good shape in Alberta. Our net debt, because we've grown our Heritage Savings Trust Fund, our net debt to GDP ratio is below 8%, which is dramatically better than any other province. So we're managing in a fiscally prudent way. But I'd kind of be interested if there's some expertise on this panel to find out what happens if we hit a debt wall this time at the federal level. We've not had that happen before.
Yeah, so I'd say the concern is not that we would literally go bankrupt, and certainly not in 12 months. I think the concerns raised by the PBO is that our debt trajectory is not sustainable. We have, over the next 4 years, last year's federal budget projected a deficit of $132 billion over those 4 years, and the PBO report now anticipates $255 over that span of time, and that doesn't even include the increased military spending or some of the platform commitments that I estimate would push that up to about $360 billion, nearly triple what the previous budget was anticipating. And so that leads to higher interest costs, that crowds out other priorities, ultimately leads to higher borrowing costs gradually over time, and at some point something will have to give.
Such long lineups. Let's get to as many as we can. Go ahead.
Comment and a question. Thank you for the video. Yes to end equalization. Do away with Revenue Canada. Have all the provinces collect all of the taxes from their taxpayers and then only pay the federal government for services that we actually receive. That's what we need. And my question is, why has this not happened yet?
So, do you want, Premier, can I suggest I just bounce back and forth and take as many as we can, and then you can bookend it at the end on this one? Let's do that. Let's go over here. Go ahead. What we'll do is we'll roll through as many comments as we can, and before we leave this subject, I'll let the Premier respond to the questions that were just asked. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Trisha. Nice to see you. Speaking of equalization and our role as a federal government, I'm wondering if there's been any headway on the Keystone XL pipeline. Is Mark Carney cooperative, kind of running the fence? Is there an oil company that's even considering taking it on?
Thanks, Tricia. We'll add that to the list. Premier will answer it in just a second. Over here.
Hi, George Clark. My question is specifically about the transfers for health and services. Those two programs are costing Alberta far more in tax points from the federal government than we ever get back. And I know that there is a provision within the equalization and transfer payments agreements to opt out of those programs. So I was quite disappointed in the video to see that you were taking a direction of perhaps involving all the other provinces before we get what we deserve here in Alberta. So my question goes back to what Lougheed told me in 1970, and he said the time is now. So let's get past next, and please go to now. Thank you.
Kate, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is George Colpitz. Following the stock market crash of 1929 in Newfoundland, still outside of Confederation, the ensuing depression devastated the economy, especially with a colony that was so dependent on only a few staples. It crashed the commodity the province or the colony crashed in the commodity markets throughout most of the decade, and so hard hit was Newfoundland that by 1934 it lost its colonial self-government to be tightly regulated by a commission government appointed by London, England. In Alberta at exactly the same time and in exactly the same conditions, and despite the return of natural resources to its full administration, the province was similarly devastated by the crash of the commodity markets.
George, need you to move it along.
And Alberta, like Newfoundland, had lost its capacity to meet the Albertan needs. But unlike Newfoundland, the federal government began immediately in 1930.
George,
federal
get
transfers.
to the question, please. You're way over.
My question is about the nature of this video that disdains the view of equalization as an important element of Canadian Confederation and one that will help us in the future.
Okay. So, is there a question in that? I didn't get it.
Just a statement. Thank you.
Okay. Couple minutes, and then we're going to come to Premier and Trevor to answer the questions that have been asked. Okay, over here.
Hi, my name's Scott Finney, and thank you very much, everyone, for granting me the opportunity to speak. My question for the panel is, has Alberta contributing to equalization been all bad, or have there been benefits that the rest of the country has received that has made Canada as a whole economically stronger? Thank you very much.
One more, and then we'll come over here. Go ahead.
and thank you all for doing this. I'm a municipal politician, so one of the things that often comes up in municipal elections is the idea that Calgary actually sends more tax dollars to the province than we receive back in infrastructure grants and other things. And I'll just push back. I actually don't think that's a bad thing. If you have in a situation in a society, you often end up giving more, so that, you know, I don't want a kid who's in Olds to not have as good of education as a kid in Calgary. And so my question is, I think the same principle applies in federal equalization. And so what is your responsibility to, you know, ensure that citizens all across Canada have similar services, which is what the equalization is about? And then also politically, how do you see yourself even being able to accomplish what you're talking about?
Thank you for the question. It's going to be a lengthy answer, I think. Premier, you and Trevor have your work cut out for you because you usually handle this question. If you didn't get to the mic, by the way, don't fret. We'll get you back at the end. We've got some time at the end for an open session. So, but that's where I have to cut this topic to get to the other ones. Okay, so I'll ask you to take a seat, and Premier, you and Trevor can try and answer those questions.
There's a lot of them there. I would say, I mean, we heard the same thing in northern Alberta that was just expressed at the mic, and I suppose you could make that argument. I don't find it particularly compelling because I think you can draw a line of sight from when you take product out of the ground in Grand Prairie or Fort McMurray. A lot of the decisions and financing associated with that happen in Calgary. The pipelines have to be drawn all the way through every part of this province. We upgrade the oil in Edmonton, and we make diesel available to our farmers. So I think you can get a direct line of sight about how development in one area supported by the investment in another area benefits all of us. It's a harder case to make about why we should continue to put up with over taxation from Ottawa, because we have very expensive programs we pay for. If you looked at our areas of jurisdiction, healthcare, education, advanced education, children's services, senior services, infrastructure, that's about 70% of all the tax dollars that are generated. And yet we only collect 40% of the tax dollars. Ottawa collects 60%. They trickle money back to us on an uneven basis and then take the rest and use it in areas of the country, quite frankly, that are more amenable to voting for the Liberals, is how it looks to me. And so that's one of the problems that we face, is the fundamental unfairness of the system. And to hear, I mean, why should we continue supporting jurisdictions who don't want to charge market rates for electricity and then we make up the difference in other provinces? Why should we support jurisdictions that don't end up developing their own substantial natural gas resources because they're worried about a new revenue stream that will reduce their equalization? Those are the things that are happening. That's part of the reason why the program needs a rethink. I think that answers both of those questions, or the last three questions that were asked in maybe a bit of a different way. When it comes to transferring tax points, I think the point was a good one, that Quebec has managed to transfer tax points, and they have acted unilaterally. I tend to like to see if we can address issues holistically, because I know the other provinces have frustrations like we do. We're not the only ones challenging equalization. Newfoundland and Labrador, British Columbia, and Saskatchewan have gone to court because of how unfair it is that small provinces are transferring money to support big provinces like Ontario and Quebec. So I think we have a few more voices that would work with us on that, but there's no reason why we can't work out an arrangement similar to get back and go unilaterally. When it comes to the wonderful idea of let's collect all taxes and then just send to Ottawa the amount that we owe for the services they provide, it would be a wonderful idea. Quebec hasn't even been able to figure out how to do that. So the feds still continue to collect their share in Quebec, and they are only able to collect the provincial share. But it would be, I think, an ideal to try to get to that point. But the reason it hasn't been done already is just we can collect only our share, and they would very likely be collecting there. That's why you'll see when we come to that video that it's a little bit more complicated to make a decision to go down that track. And then as for Keystone, I think my view is it's all of the above. We want pipelines north, south, east, and west. Surely we've seen that the Americans have expressed an interest in restarting that conversation. And I know that there are several pipeline companies that are looking at ways of increasing the amount that goes south by up to a couple million barrels a day. I think if we want to expand our markets, though, we need to be also building them east and west. So that's what I've been advocating for all of them.
So good. Premier, thank you. Trevor, did you have anything to add from those final questions?
Yeah, a couple quick points. First, on the health and social transfers, it was the case historically that Alberta received less because of the higher value of the tax points that were sent to the province when that, you have to go back to the 70s. But Harper changed this in Budget 2007, fully implemented in 2014 to make those programs common and equal per capita across the board. And that was worth about $1 billion per year to Alberta. And so I'd say the problems with those transfer programs have been fixed. And around, is there benefits to Alberta from equalization? That's a great question. And every policy has trade-offs. So it's always important to think about both sides of the ledger. One important benefit is it helps ensure Canada can be a decentralized country. If smaller, poorer provinces can't fulfill their constitutional responsibilities, then there would be enormous pressure for the feds to take that over. So a program like equalization is important to have, but the design details are equally important to think about and get right.
Terrific. Thank you. And thank you for that robust discussion on the very first topic. I'm going to ask you a question, and we're going to take a little straw poll. I'm going to remind those of you at the mic, if you're still standing there, that you need to come back and talk about a proposed Alberta pension plan, which will be the next video. And so if you didn't get up on this topic, we'll have some open time at the end that you can come back. But the next one, I'm going to make way for the pension plan, and believe me, there will be a lot of people that want to speak to it. So here's the question. Yay or nay? We'll start with the yays. Should Alberta take a lead role in working with the other provinces to reform federal transfers and equalization? By show of hands, who says yay? Who says nay? And the yays have it. The next video, which we will discuss momentarily, here it is. It's on a proposed Alberta pension plan and what it would mean to Alberta.
Our next topic is creating an Alberta pension plan with the same or better benefits than the Canada pension plan. With a younger and more productive workforce, Alberta workers contribute about $3 billion more each year to the Canada pension plan than Alberta seniors receive in benefits. Alberta has the constitutional right to exit the CPP. And if we did, federal legislation says that Alberta would be entitled to a sizable share of the CPP assets that we could use to start our own provincial pension plan, so long as we guarantee comparable pension benefits for seniors. Quebec made the decision to start its own pension plan decades ago, and they have an agreement with Ottawa so that all retirees receive their full pension benefits, whether they worked in Quebec, retired there, or some mix of both. Alberta could negotiate a similar arrangement with Ottawa if we created our own pension plan. There are more factors to consider as well. Currently, virtually all investment decisions and management of the CPP is conducted by folks working in Ottawa and Toronto rather than Alberta. While the CPP's mandate is to maximize pension returns, in recent years, the CPP annual reports have shown an increasing focus on emissions reductions and DEI concerns, which do not always result in the highest rate of returns for the pension plan. CPP management has also become bloated and expensive. 20 years ago, the CPP had only 150 employees, with operating costs of $118 million. Today, it has ballooned to more than 2,100 employees with operating costs of about $6 billion. If Alberta opted to commence its own pension plan, the fund would be managed out of Alberta by Albertans, and investments could be focused exclusively on maximizing returns rather than adjusting for carbon dioxide and DEI-related objectives. With that all said, the CPP has consistently generated healthy returns and is a stable and critical source of income for seniors in Alberta and Canada. So, what are the benefits of Alberta choosing to withdraw from the CPP to create its own pension plan? 1. A big upfront payout. Alberta would get back a significant lump sum by exiting the CPP. The chief actuary in Ottawa has indicated our share would be at least $140 billion. That's plenty to start and build a strong Alberta pension plan from day one. 2. Better benefits for seniors, lower premiums for Alberta workers. Thanks to our younger, more productive population, an Alberta pension plan could result in Alberta workers paying lower pension premiums on their paychecks. or seniors enjoying higher pension benefits, or a mix of both. 3, local control and boosting our economy. An Alberta pension plan would be managed right here at home, creating more jobs and growing Alberta's financial sector. We would also be insulated from the economic and demographic decline in Canada. Our investment decisions could also be steered clear of ideological decision-making and instead remain focused on the long-term rate of return for Alberta pensioners. But there are some risks to consider. 1, uncertain payout. The CPP exit rules aren't clear in the federal legislation, and Ottawa is notoriously anti-Alberta with its decisions. So the size of the lump sum Alberta is offered could be lower than it should be. This could result in a lengthy court battle with the federal government, and it could lower our ability to increase benefit payments for seniors or lower premiums for workers. 2, long-term risk. As with any pension plan, if the plan is mismanaged or Alberta's economy and demographics fall behind Canada, premiums would have to rise in the future in order to guarantee our seniors the same benefits they enjoy today under the CPP. Regardless, as with Quebec, Alberta's government would still be able to guarantee that an Alberta pension plan provide the same or better benefits to Alberta seniors as they now enjoy under the CPP. 3, portability concerns. The Quebec pension plan and CPP have an agreement in place to ensure pensioners get the same single pension, regardless of where they worked or lived in Canada during their career. Alberta would expect a similar arrangement with Ottawa, but it is not guaranteed. So, should Alberta withdraw from the CPP and use Alberta's portion of the CPP to create our own Alberta pension plan? Or should we continue with the CPP as we do now?
Okay, I'm sure we'll have a lot of people that want to weigh in on this one, and we're going to start right in front of us this time. You go ahead.
Okay.
Just and maybe I'll ask, just introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, and then go ahead.
Okay. My name is Frank Zhou. I have been working successful in financial service industry for 20 years. About APP oversight and investments, premium, if Alberta starts its own pension plan, how will our province keep the investment well managed and free from local political influence, while earning returns as strong as or better than the current CPP? About the transition and the cost, if Alberta sets up an Alberta pension plan, how will our province safely move our current CPP savings and keep the plan's running costs low? Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. And again, and this is such a big crowd here tonight that just what we're going to do is normally we'd go back and forth and the Premier would answer and we'd get through everybody, but I can just see by the size of the lines and the sides of the crowd it won't work. So we'll get Premier to keep track of a few of these questions and we'll answer in one go. Make sense? Just say yes. Let's go over here.
Yes. Oh, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Premier. My name is Chris Moen, and I am from Calgary. My debate sparring partner, Gord Tulk, he sends his regards. He's out on vacation tonight. So, regarding recent public opinion research conducted by the Government of Alberta by Janet Brown Public Opinion Research showed a notable shift towards support for an Alberta pension plan when respondents were assured that an Alberta pension plan would guarantee equal or better benefits than the CPP for Alberta seniors, and the support rose to 55%. At the same time, demographic and economic shifts could negatively impact an Alberta pension plan, requiring adjustments to benefits or premiums. My questions for the panel: over what time horizon, are we talking 5, 10, or 30 years, would these economic and demographic shifts have to have in order to have a long-term effect? Yeah. Second question would be, is the guarantee of equal or better benefits fixed at a point in time, as in when Alberta leaves Canada Pension Plan, or are we subject to future fluctuations in the Alberta or in Canada Pension Plan?
Okay.
Third one. Okay.
I'm going to get my pension before you're done this question.
Final one. Does the risk model account for demographic shifts in both Alberta as well as the rest of Canada?
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, we'll come to the Premier and Andrew Judson in just a minute because I know he's done some work on this in the Fraser Institute, but let's go over here.
Hi, my name is James Choffermuck. I'm from Calgary. We have 2 boys working in the oil patch 12 to 14 hours a day. How do you, they don't have time to listen to the benefits of the APP in Alberta. How do you get that information out to the young people? Because it seems to me the people who are against it is my generation, and the people who are paying for it is their generation. Dr. Toombs, I think you were referencing there's a federal review on the CPP. If you can comment on the benefits of that, I'd appreciate that. And I have 4 seconds. Thank you.
I would have given you more time, actually. That was so good. Okay, one more, and then we'll go to the panel. Go ahead.
Yes, hello. My name is Marika. Hello, Danielle. And my invite for you to come to Florida is still open. I'd like to find out, will we also, if and when we get the Alberta pension, are we going to also have an old age security added to that? My beef with the old age security right now is the fact that we have a number of Canadians who are importing their grandparents and getting them PRs, and therefore they are then allowing those people to get old age security, even those people have never contributed a cent to our economy, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it.
Thank you. Andrew, can you, the Fraser Institute has done a report on some of these numbers, so this might be a good time to come to you.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce, and good evening, everyone. This is an emotional issue. We certainly recognize that. 10 for 10 open halls we've had where we're, hearing people just reject the idea out of hand, and we just would reflect that, the Institute wrote a report on the 14th of July of this past year, and basically, if you just get to the math, there's just no question that a Alberta pension would be viable and sustainable and successful. So we do want to reflect on that, appreciating that this is of great concern to many people. But the other thing that I would add, it was pointed out to me this weekend that we were dealing with a federal government that regularly insinuates to the world that the CPP is a federal asset. And they quote IMF data that's a little misleading, netting the pension vision against the Canadian debt. It's not their money. They are custodians. It's your money. It's our money. And an Alberta pension would be viable.
I don't know if Dr. Toom would be able to tell us about the viability or when we'd have to worry about a demographic shift. But to give you an idea, I think the video mentioned it, we pay $9 billion in premiums and our seniors received $6 billion in benefits. So there already is $3 billion more. So that gives quite a bit of room, I think, for us to have a bit of an aging demographic and still be viable. I know that Trevor has mentioned in previous meetings that we've had that to have the plan be viable, all we would need is a $20 billion transfer. That would be the equivalency of what we would have at the federal level for viability. And so we think, even based on the preliminary information the actuary gave us, it's a minimum of $140 billion that would be transferred. We think it's more than that, but it's a minimum of $140 billion. So I think that the viability issue is one that is settled. When it comes to old age security, that is a federal social program. And as Marika mentioned, it is non-contributory. So we would still have the federal government manage that portion of the program. We would not be adding an additional old age security. That would still be a federal social program that would stay in place. That would be our intention. We're just talking about the contributory plan. And the question around the viability. So in 2018, there was a policy that was put in place by the board that was in place at the time that was a very risky strategy of using hedge funds, and it resulted in a loss of $2 billion. And so my predecessor came in, cleared out the board, actually hired the head of the board who had been with the CPP. So that was one of the ways in which we had to adjust some of the practices at AIMCO because it was managing so much wealth. We felt we could do more. Because part of what we saw with CPP is it's not quite the organization it was 30 years ago. 30 years ago, they used to invest on passive investment principles, small management expense ratios. Now they're up to over 2,000 employees and $6 billion in expenses, whereas it used to be $150 million. So we are returning our pension fund to be managed in a less active way, less management expenses, and more focus on returns. And so that's why I believe that through AIMCO, which already manages about $190 billion worth of funds, we believe that they have the expertise to be able to manage it prudently.
Trevor, I'm going to save you, okay, because we just got such a long lineup. Just hang on. All right, let's go over here.
Thank you. My name is Laurel Jackson. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a third-generation Albertan. Thank you for having this panel, but I just want to remind you, this is our money, Albertans' money, that you're using to spend on this panel. We should be able to talk about whatever topic we want, not what your 6 videos are. Survey after survey you have done has said we don't want an Alberta pension. We don't want Alberta police. We don't want municipal parties. But you aren't. Thanks. But you didn't listen then, so why should you listen now? We want publicly funded, publicly delivered health care.
Okay.
We want public education.
Okay.
Oh, so yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's go over here.
Okay, in many financial circles, it is not known fact, but is known that the pension right now in the CPP is guaranteed for 75 years. That's just what's in it now. And respect it worldwide. Just a comment. My problem is, or concern is the way you are surveying. That survey was geared to why we need one and what is the structure. There was never a question whether you want one. You had to answer all the why and the structure questions and get to the comment section.
Awesome. Do you know what, ma'am?
In surveys, that why and structure is going to end up in your pie graph.
Okay.
The comments are not ending up in your...
Thank you. I'll tell you what, just for you, when we're done the discussion, we'll do a straw poll. We'll ask the question. Promise. Okay? Let's go over here.
Ellen from Calgary. We in this room have built up our own individual CPP accounts. We all have our own. It isn't the feds, it isn't Alberta's, it's ours. And I resent a lot the idea that a government of Alberta is going to take my money from my account and spread it however they feel they want to do it. I'm going to move on quickly. I'd like to know when we're going to see the official survey results, and I want you all to know I want you to keep your hands out of my individual CPP.
Premier, I'm not sure I can leave that one hanging.
Well, I think maybe Trevor Toome should comment on this, and I know that people believe that there's money in an account with your name on it, but that's not how CPP works. It's a pay-as-you-go program. So the people who are receiving money today are receiving that money from the people who are paying in today. And then the extra amount that our young people are paying goes to Ottawa to be invested in a fund without actually consulting back with the province or any of the ratepayers on how it's invested. So but Andrew Judson has a proposal that we could actually do it just as the last speaker described if we had our own independent plan, that whatever extra there was would be able to go into an account with your name on it, so that if you do end up having money left over and you want to bequeath it to your heirs, you'd be able to. You can't do that now, right? And so that's part of the reason. why we want to look at the potential. The other thing I'd say, because I know people talk about surveys, so most surveys only have about 800 people responding. We have about 1,200 people in this room. And so this is the reason why we're going around, is we're trying to get a gauge of where people are at on whether they want this to go to a vote. When it goes to a vote, that's when you'd have a yes side and you'd have a no side. It would be fully debated, and every single Albertan would be able to get to weigh in on it. I just don't think that any of us can make a decision off a poll that only has 800 people or a single room full. That's why we've been doing such extensive consultation to see if there's an appetite to put it to a vote.
Thank you, Premier. Yes. Okay, Trevor, quickly. Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, just confirming, there are no individual CPP accounts, full stop. To the earlier question about like what the time horizon is and how much would demographics and migration and so on have to change to undermine Alberta's advantage, these are typically projections that go out to the mid-2080s. That's what I do, and that's what the CPP does in its forecasting. And for context, if we would have migration and fertility rates in Alberta that matched the Canadian average, then I estimate about 1/3 of the Alberta pension advantage would be eliminated, so 2/3 left. And if we looked like Quebec, which has kind of the lowest of both, then about half the advantage would evaporate as well. And that's all the way out through to the 2080s.
Okay, let's take a couple more comments. I'm going to hold them from the panel for a minute so we can get through a couple more. Start here.
Janet Weiss, Calgary, and I would like Trevor Toom to answer my questions. Alberta Pension Plan is predicated on younger, high earners, contributing less and putting those savings in private savings. But what if what happened in Quebec before their referendum happens here, whereby companies and businesses leave Alberta, residents move out of province, taking their tax base and spending power, real estate plummets, birth rate continues to decline. Where will those high-paying jobs be then, and how will their lower contributions give me as much or more benefits as promised? Okay. In 30 years, when these workers retire based on lower contributions and being unable to save privately, what will they earn as benefits?
Thank you. Trevor, hang on a sec, okay? We got to go over here. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Ben Legg. I know from experience that the Liberals and NDP are internal landlords and cashing out on legislation cuts. We live in poor, unaffordable conditions, and UCP continues to cut healthcare systems. Nurses have a 200-kilometer commute per work shift across Alberta and back again with barely any notice. UCP's comparable pensions means that Alberta will give less than the federal alternative, and any good pension would be publicly available. But Smith wouldn't be stop talking about it. However, the rich will not help us out, pinning light versus dark, disabled versus abled, and left versus right. The ruling class will not pay their fair share and cannot be taxed.
Okay.
Alberta.
Gotcha. Okay. Premier, do you want to respond, or you and Trevor, before we just ask the question?
Let me just start by saying that it's a requirement of the legislation that if you do opt out, you have to pay equal or better. I don't know the answer if that has to be stay indexed as the plan changes, but looking at what was mentioned earlier about the federal government being in very dire financial straits and us being in relatively good financial position, I just don't see that there would be that large a reversal in the period of time that we're talking about. Did you have any comment on that, Trevor?
Yeah, just noting that the reversal would have to be completely unprecedented. So us moving into a situation with migration and fertility looking like Quebec all the way through to 2080 just eats up about half the advantage. Now, in a scenario where all the advantage evaporates, it would be higher worker contribution rates that would keep the plan sustainable in that scenario.
Had to cut the lines, and I think we're already gonna find another way to shave some time at the end. So those of you can always come back at the end, okay? I promise you can come back at the end. But here is the question: should Alberta create a pension plan with the same or better benefits than the Canadian pension plan? Who says yes? And who says no? It's pretty decisive. The next video, and I'll ask those in the line again, we're going to switch topics, so I need you to go back to your seats. And if you want to speak to the provincial police force when the video is done, come on back to the microphone. Here we go.
Our next topic is the potential creation of an Alberta police service to take over community policing from the RCMP. Today, roughly 80% of Albertans are served by local municipal police services, such as the Calgary, Edmonton, and Lethbridge City Police Services. However, Albertans living in most rural communities and a few mid-sized cities like Red Deer, Fort McMurray, and Airdrie are policed by the RCMP under Alberta's policing contract with Ottawa. And as is the case with most federal agreements, Alberta is getting shortchanged. To be clear, RCMP police officers and staff aren't the problem. They do all they can to protect us with the resources they have. The problem is Ottawa. Because the federal government is failing to provide the number of promised officers and resources to Alberta communities under the policing contract, response times are slow, staffing is stretched thin, and officers are often moved across the country at a moment's notice, resulting in little connection to the Alberta communities they serve. Furthermore, because of French language requirements, English-speaking Alberta officers do not qualify for senior RCMP positions. And ultimately, the RCMP's policing priorities are chosen by the federal government in Ottawa, rather than the provincial government in Alberta. Even the federal government itself has recently stated the RCMP should transition away from contract policing when current agreements expire in 2032. Ontario and Quebec have had provincial services for over 100 years. Why not Alberta? So, what are the benefits of Alberta withdrawing from the federal policing contract and creating our own provincial police service to provide community policing? 1, more local, more accountable. An Alberta police service would be run by and for Albertans, accountable to our province and not to the federal government in Ottawa. Police officers and support staff could build long-term careers in the Alberta communities they know and love. And any current RCMP officers and support staff working in Alberta would be invited to join a new Alberta police service. 2, safer rural communities. With local recruitment and stable placements, rural response times would improve considerably from where they are now, and coverage would become more reliable and tailored to each municipality and region. This is especially important in underserved rural Alberta communities. 3, flexible, made-in-Alberta solution. Most Albertans already have local police services. The province would assist larger communities like Red Deer, Fort McMurray, and Airdrie to transition to their own police services, while smaller, rural communities would be policed by the new provincial police service. And of course, nothing would change for Edmonton, Calgary, and other communities that already have municipal police services in place. But there are also potential drawbacks to consider. 1, startup costs. Establishing a new police service requires significant initial investment. Hiring officers, buying equipment, building training infrastructure, and training personnel. Ultimately, the startup costs could reach into the hundreds of millions over several years. 2, loss of some federal operational funding. The federal government currently covers 30% of RCMP contract policing costs. It is therefore likely that there will be additional ongoing operational costs for the province. However, municipalities would not be saddled with those costs. So, should Alberta create an Alberta Police Service to take over community policing from the RCMP?
I make this comment before we start this subject. I just think it's so important when we have this discussion, just know that we're not having it about the men and women who serve us in the RCMP. We're grateful for each and every one of them and everything that they do. We are talking about the bureaucracy itself and the system and whether or not we need to amend that for Albertans. So I think that goes without saying, but most of you realize that. So let's go over here to start this one.
Hi, I'm Colleen from Calgary. I was raised by an RCMP officer and have long been proud of our RCMP. However, I've seen the decline of integrity as we see quite a close relationship between upper echelons of the RCMP with political animals in Ottawa. So I support the creation of a community police station like sheriffs or whatever that looks like, and would like to see those sheriffs take a vow to the people rather than to government systems. And in March of 2025, a federal government white paper, New Policing Vision for Canada, recommended cancelling RCMP contract policing by 2032. And I think if we do see that removal of services, we can be proactive in creating our own police force.
Thank you.
And is it possible to purchase the K panel, which is the RCMP division that oversees Alberta?
Got it. Colleen, thank you. Thank you. It'll be one question we answer. Really appreciate those comments, though. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Hong Mei Han from the beautiful Chinese community. Glad to be here to join every one of you for a town hall that is really with Albertans, for Albertans, and by Albertans. As a former Calgary Police Service CPS Asian Advisory Board member, back in 2020, during the pandemic, the Calgary Chinese community has been very actively engaged with the Police Act review with both Alberta Human Rights and Police Commission. Today, where we see rural Albertans really need strong policing, and this conversation has been going so long.
Yes.
Well, with a review, we see transitions away from federal RCMP contracting may raise issues about funding, service continuity, and federal provincial responsibilities.
Thank you.
A quick question here.
Yes.
How will provincial police oversight be structured, including provincial municipal police commission, civilian review, and indigenous governance?
Excellent.
And what steps will ensure a smooth transition?
Okay. Okay, I have to do this again. 45 seconds, please, so that we can hear from so many people. And that's not to say that the comments aren't great. They really are, but that's the sweet spot. Over here.
Yeah, good evening. The only reason I got up was I found the video relatively disrespectful of our CMP members, and I'm glad that you made mention of that. And the reason I'm here is I'm a clinical psychologist, retired, and one of my duties was to do fitness of duty assessments for members of the RCMP that worked in very isolated rural areas, including Alberta. So the only thing I would say, because I have no opinion, I have not enough information between policing, using your own police versus the RCMP. But if you do, it would be really good that you do offer fitness of duty assessments even to police due to the hard work that they do.
Thank you. Let's go here one more first.
Marilyn from Calgary. I'm disappointed tonight that we did not sing the national anthem. I think that would have shown respect for our fallen veterans, including my father-in-law, who was a POW in Nazi Germany for 20 months. No way, no how will I ever agree to a separation vote for Alberta. I will never agree to Alberta becoming the 51st state. I ask you, Premier Smith and ministers, to find an off-ramp for this misguided folly. If you think that you can better manage the programs such as the Alberta Pension and the RCMP, I have one word for you, and that is AIMCO. AIMCO gutted the Heritage Trust Fund, government employees' pension, and then the UCP let them take over the already well-managed teachers' pension.
Thank you.
Please find an off-ramp for this.
Thank you. She'll be voting no to the question. Let's meet another member of our panel. Tara Sawyer is the MLA for Olds Didsbury Three Hills, recently elected. I think it's not so recently now. Tara, it's been a while. You're like a veteran, but You tell an interesting story about door knocking when you were running in the election recently, and RCMP and police. So go ahead.
I promise to keep it short this time. First of all, thank you, everyone. It's a privilege to be able to hear from you and everyone else in Alberta. I am representing a rural riding where we do have a serious problem when it comes to crime and how they've figured out to target us. I was door knocking and I didn't bring it up, as happens when you door knock. The gentleman happened to let me know that he was a proud retired RCMP officer, but that he was greatly concerned about how it has gone down to the point that he did not encourage his son to join. As much as he was proud of his service, it's not the same as it was. And that was from him. And then I do think it's important to mention I hit another door, and the gentleman happened to be an active member of the Calgary service who lives in one of the towns that I represent. And there's nothing he would love more than to be able to police in the town that he lives in, where he's raising his family, because what any of us who are from a rural community knows is community is the key to our survival. How we connect with one another, how we work with one another is what keeps our rural towns vibrant. And so to be able to have that connection, presently often they are coming and going too quickly. They don't get to set the roots to get to know us as well as even they would like to. And the other problem is we aren't getting the full complement. And when you come to municipal taxes, I hear it from representatives. Their frustration is they're paying in and not getting all the officers to help in our rural areas. I tried to keep it short.
That's a great point. I know the Premier will pick up on that in a few minutes, but back to the mics.
Hi, my name is Evan Lee. I'm a Calgary high school student. Like many high school students, I'm very concerned about what's going to happen to the upcoming Alberta teachers' strike, which just an hour ago, they voted 89.5 in favor of striking.
Evan?
And my question is, why is the government handing out
Here's the thing, Evan. Evan, I applaud you coming here to speak. I don't applaud how you're trying to speak. It's not making any sense. So we're going to move along, okay? Let's go over to this microphone, okay? I know you'd love some chaos, but your parents should turn you over your knee. Let's go over here.
Oh, that's rude. That's rude. No. Rude.
Go ahead.
That is disgraceful. So, disgraceful comments aside, my name is Jennifer from Calgary.
Thanks.
As to the previous comment about concerns over political animals influencing policing, how could the citizens of Alberta be sure that our vulnerable communities that have been threatened by the UCP government, such as queer, LGBTQ2+, and trans citizens...
Oh my gosh, let me just remind everybody, the Alberta Police Service is what we're talking about, and I know 97% of you get that, so we'll just wait until the lady leaves. Let's go to this microphone and try it again. On a proposed Alberta police force, what do you think of this subject?
Okay, Premier Smith and the panel's professionals, it's really the honor to talk to you. As Alberta, the healthiest province, and the Calgary is ranked amongst the most livable cities because of that. We have a wise, efficient, flexible, democratic government teams. And my name is Boding, a first-generation believer, and I am a university research fellow in management and have lived and grown here for 25 years. So I just want to share one of my stories. It's very short. My dad was dealt because he ran out of gas, and less than a minute, and he recorded that a police vehicle came over, stopped, and asked what happened, and offered help. So this shows that our provincial policing is steady, efficient, and professional.
Yes.
It is really achieving the protect and serve. And from practical standpoint, just let me finish very quick, sir.
Thank you.
And regarding the transitions to provincial police models, I support a smooth transition to establishing a provincial police service combined with the municipal local policing governance.
Thank you. Terrific. You support it. Premier, I do want to ask you to comment, but the question that did come out there was about the teachers, and I feel like given the news cycle, we should probably make a comment there. I'll leave it to you to come to the RCMP and to that.
Well, let me just say, we'll have more to say at a press conference tomorrow at 12 o'clock. We are disappointed. I mean, we have heard that the issue that teachers are experiencing is around complexity in the classroom size, as well as the number of newcomers who have English as a second language that is putting pressure on the classroom. So we've got some things that we've got to talk with the teachers union at the table around getting more education assistance. We're building more schools. You can only build them at the rate that you can construct. And so we're hoping to find some agreement on that, but we'll have more to say about that tomorrow. If I can say about the RCMP, just a few of the comments that have come up. I often wonder in an urban audience if we should reverse the question. Do you want to get rid of your Calgary Police Service and adopt the RCMP instead? Now you understand how rural Albertans feel about wanting to have a local police force. There were lots of questions that I heard about how do you have proper oversight. Well, one of the things we had to do is we had to change the police commission oversight on our existing forces to have the same rigor that municipal forces already have. We've already established that. When we transfer over the sheriffs into this new provincial policing agency, there'll be about 1,200 of them, and we have to make sure that we have that oversight for exactly the reasons that some were alluding to, is that if there is excessive use of force or something that needs to be investigated, you have to have a civilian oversight arm to be able to address that. So we were already moving in that direction. And to the point of where would we be in 2032 if we don't plan for the federal government potentially ending community policing, we'd be in the same position we were back in 1917 when we did have the Northwest Mounted Police, I think at the time. They didn't want to police prohibition laws, so they pulled up stakes, and then Alberta had to scramble and put a provincial police service in place. Bruce McDonald would have told you this story if he was here. It ended up getting disbanded because in 1932, yes, Alberta did go bankrupt, and so they had to come back in because there wasn't money for policing. So that's a bit of the history lesson that we've had on both sides about why we've had a police service federally and also how we've managed to do a provincial police service in the past. And I would say that local policing works. I was mentioning this in an earlier speech, that our collaboration with our sheriffs and the Calgary Police Service and all the work that we've done on a navigation center and a few other things, the crime severity index in Calgary went down 14% year over year, and it's well below the national average. And so having that kind of local police service where you can have the interoperability, which we can do with sheriffs, but we can't do with RCMP, that may be another reason why we should be looking at how we would be able to offer more local policing opportunities.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. So we'll try to go back to this microphone again on the police force.
A quick question, or a quick comment, sorry. When Danielle Smith talks about the need to have a provincial police force, she doesn't truly care about serving the rural communities. She pushes this talking point as a red herring to distract from the fact that the oil barons in Alberta don't have a miniature army of their own. This isn't about serving local communities better. This is about two capitalist cliques waging a war against each other. The oil barons in the west, sitting before us today, and the industrialists in the east. What we need is local policing, but not under the control of the ruling class. For it to actually serve us, we the workers need to be in control of the police. Thank you.
Over here.
Okay. Hey there, I'm from Calgary. I'm a Calgary resident, but I do have family in the rural areas of Alberta, and I think they do have some valid concerns about coverage and policing overall. But you know, I think most of this is politically motivated, and it really revolves around the UCP's investigations by the RCMP that probably have a lot to do with it. I don't even know how many investigations the RCMP currently has against the government of Alberta or the UCP since it's been.
I wonder how many they have on the federal Liberals. I bet they got a few there. We ran out of time again, so let's ask the question. Should Alberta create an Alberta Police Service to take over community policing from the RCMP? Who says yes? Who says no? Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing? Okay, the next we will watch is on constitutional changes. And again, you can come back up in the end if you didn't get up, okay?
Our next topic is Alberta taking a lead role in working with other provinces to pressure the federal government to amend the Canadian Constitution to empower and better protect provincial rights. The Canadian Constitution, including its Charter of Rights of Freedoms and sections on the division of powers between the federal and provincial governments, is foundational to our democracy. The enforcement of the Constitution by governments and the courts ensures our rights and freedoms are protected, and that our provincial and federal governments generally function as they should. But no document is perfect. Some things that made sense 150 years ago may no longer make sense today. That is why the Constitution contains an amending formula that permits the Constitution to be altered should enough provinces and the federal government agree to it. Over the last decades, several outdated and unfair problems with the Constitution have been identified, but no tangible progress has been made to fix them, due primarily to a lack of federal and provincial leadership. Examples of proposed constitutional reforms include the following. 1. Amending the division of powers to indicate that core areas of provincial jurisdiction, including over natural resources and health, are immune from federal legislation, and to also ensure that in shared areas of jurisdiction, such as agriculture and immigration, provincial laws prevail over federal ones. 2. Imposing constitutional limits on the federal spending power in areas of provincial jurisdiction, including a provincial right to opt out of federal spending measures with proper compensation should they so choose. 3. Adhering strictly to representation by population in the House of Commons. Right now, those living in smaller provinces are greatly overrepresented when compared to those living in larger ones. 4. Either abolishing the Senate entirely or having it actually represent provincial interests as originally intended by mandating an elected Senate with the same amount of senators representing each province. 5. Allowing provinces to appoint their own King's Bench and Court of Appeal justices, rather than having those appointments made by the federal government. 6. Expanding the Supreme Court to allow for more justices from Western Canada and making prior service on a province's Court of Appeal a mandatory requirement of becoming a Supreme Court justice. 7. Eliminating the Ottawa residency requirement for judges on federal courts to ensure more Western Canadian representation. And 8. Mandating provincial approval of the appointment of a lieutenant governor to a province by the federal government. There are, of course, many other potential constitutional amendments that are worth discussion, but this is a start. So, should Alberta take a lead role in working with other provinces to pressure the federal government to amend the Canadian Constitution in order to empower and better protect provincial rights? And if so, which of the amendments discussed or other proposals should the Alberta government advocate for?
Hey, Minister Schultz, would you kick us off on this one? I know you have really enjoyed your dealings with former Minister Stephen Guilbeault. Perhaps we could start there.
Well, I would say the minister has changed, but the mandate of the federal environment minister is still somewhat the same, although we are hearing some different language out of this new Prime Minister. I would say that if we look back over the last 10 years, we can see why Albertans are so frustrated. We see a government that has gone down a path of ideologically trying to shut in and shut down all of our major industries through things like C-48, the tanker ban, Bill C-69. We have the clean electricity regulations, their net zero power grid that would cost $1.7 trillion with an expectation of overhauling the entire grid that was built over the last number of decades in 10 short years. We have an emissions cap That would cost $282 billion in lost GDP and kill over 90 million jobs. Could you just imagine how effective we would be as a province and a country if we didn't have to defend ourselves against a federal government that is politically motivated to shut down our major industries, and the ability we would have to grow our economy and see our true potential as an economy, and how that would actually enable us to invest in, continue to invest in all of the public services that Albertans rely on. And I also just want to give a huge shout out for our Premier in building consensus across the country in this on a variety of different topics. I know very few political leaders that take direct democracy this seriously, that we have been traveling the province, talking to Albertans face to face over the last 2 months. And so thank you, Premier, for your leadership on that front.
Constitutional changes, and we can all agree if it's not constitutional changes, we're just going to cut it off, right? Over here.
Hi, I'm Ross. This question is for the Premier. Given that our form of Westminster government is designed for colonial rule and our Constitution fully embeds its full power to central Canada, in which they will never give up, and the Bill of Rights is used by Ottawa as a suggestion, not a right. After 120 years of this, why should Albertans support staying within Canada when everything else tells us to go?
I didn't get his name. I would have liked to. Premier now? Yes?
Yeah, I'll just say, because I wish Michael Binion was here, he would normally talk about the evolution of our Constitution. And I don't dispute the way the country came together, and then it's taken us some time to get to an equal status. We were Rupert's Land and then Northwest Territories and then became Alberta, and then the Resource Transfer Act didn't happen until the 1930s. But slowly but surely, we've been taking on more and more roles of a responsible government. This is one of the papers that Michael Binion has written, is that as you develop more capacity, then you exercise more of the jurisdiction that you have. Quebec, because they're double our population, and also because they've got unique characteristics to maintain culture, they have taken on all of these roles of responsible government. They do collect their personal income tax. They do have their own pension. They do have their own police. They do have their own control over immigration. But I would say I'm not as gloomy, I don't think, as the last speaker. I think that this is the stage where we're asking the question, is should we take on more of the roles that we see other larger jurisdictions taking on? And I think that one thing I should also just mention, because I had to sign off on an agreement with Government of Canada, and the language of the agreement was really interesting, because we signed for His Majesty in right of Alberta, and they signed for His Majesty in right of Canada. We are not a subservient level of government. We get our executive authority directly because of the Constitution, and we both have the oath that we swear to His Majesty. And that's something that I think the federal government forgets, and maybe some Albertans forget from time to time, is that we are not meant to have the federal government invade our jurisdiction, just as much as we cannot invade their jurisdiction. We're trying to just get them back to honoring the current letters of the Constitution, and then this section is also talking about if there's anything more we should do.
Over here, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Premier, it's good to be in your company again. Last time we met was at a stormy night in Delia when the formation of the Wild Rose, and I spoke on property rights there. Thrasymachus was a sparring partner of Socrates, and to paraphrase what Thrasymachus said, he said, no matter what form of government you have...
Hang on one sec. Okay. Okay, just somebody give me an okay. Are we okay to continue? Okay. Yep, okay. Go ahead, sir.
To paraphrase Thrasymachus, he said, no matter what form of government you have, justice will always prevail, the more powerful. Going back to the last comment, the Ottawa government, the Alberta government are both creatures of the Westminster parliamentary system with peace, order, and good government. That's a creature of the King of England. If you go back to Shakespeare, he said, kill all the lawyers and kill them tonight, because only the king had lawyers. Nobody could protect themselves. Everybody from the Prime Minister to MLAs, MPs, premiers, judges, police make an oath of office to the King, not to we the people. If we have a Charter of Rights, a Bill of Rights in Canada, and a Bill of Rights in Alberta, how can you protect my Bill of Rights when every one of your oath of office is to the King and not to me the people?
Okay. Want to just wait until the end? Premier, it's up to you. Do you want to take that now, or do you want to just wait until we get a few
Well, I like the British parliamentary tradition, stretching all the way back to the Magna Carta, which was the original guarantor of private property rights, that the king could not act in a way that was outside the powers that were invested in him by the nobles at the time. And so that British parliamentary history is one that I think is a guarantor of where all of our rights come from. So maybe you and I just have a slightly different interpretation. I actually take some great comfort in the fact that we've been given executive authority that is not subservient to Ottawa. I think that that's actually a positive aspect of our Constitution.
Excellent. It actually ended a lot better than I thought when he said, I haven't seen you since a stormy night in Delia. I had no idea where he was going. Let's go over here.
Yes, evening, Premier and panel members. Thanks very much for spending the time tonight here. We appreciate it. My concern is constitutional inequality. Alberta and Western Canada has been suffered under it for the last 120 years. I don't think many Albertans, many Canadians are aware that we have only 1/4 of the number of senators that Ontario or Quebec have, that we don't have representation by population. There's grandfather and senatorial rights that skew pure representation. And I think, I don't think most Albertans are aware that this is an important thing that we need to do to reform the country.
Yep.
I just wanted.
Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say, please work with premiers of other provinces. Please communicate our need for this. This is something that is critical. Either we become equal Canadians, or I think a lot of Albertans will say it's time for an exit.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Over here.
Hi, my name is John Sador. I've been a long-term resident of Calgary, but I now reside in Trochu. My question for you is, I agree with a lot of these constitutional reforms, but how are we going to get them done? Because from both of Danielle Smith and Rebecca that have been spoken on this panel, we've had to defend ourselves against government overreach in Ottawa. And if we do anything in the constitutional amendment that goes to Ottawa, why would they ever give us more power than what they want to give us? So even though we may have executive function here within the province, they're already trying to claw that away. They already have done it. So what are we actually going to do? In my opinion, it's time to get rid of Confederation. It's time to step up for Alberta independence, and we make our own republic and we make our own rules.
Thank you. Premier, I'm going to ask you to respond to close it when we do this subject in the closer, okay? Over here.
My name is Mitch. The constitutional question speaks about empowering Albertans to take control over their own resources and wealth. But any sort of constitutional change will lead to deepening capital arrangements, securing a stronger position for Alberta's capitalist class. We, the Revolutionary Communist Party, say that the working class Albertans control the fruits of labor that they create and produce as per the needs of the working class, rather than for the profit of Alberta's capitalist class, which you support. So I urge everyone who agree with their ideas, join the Revolutionary Communist Party.
Thank you, comrade. Thank you, comrade. Over here. Right here.
Good evening, Premier. Good to see you again. And hello to the rest of the panelists. Thank you for doing what you're doing right now and getting feedback from the people. John kind of took it away from me with the last statement that he said, but I'm curious because there is a challenge right now in front of the Supreme Court of Canada. If we were to get overruled by the Supreme Court, how far are we ready to go if we get a no from Ottawa? Thank you.
These are some good questions. I can't wait to hear the Premier respond, but a few more from the mics.
Good evening. My name is Zi Gao. As a supply chain company helping local businesses import from Asia, we see our clients struggling with soaring costs and customs delays under the current U.S.-Canada trade tensions. Our concern is which specific constitutional amendment would you pursue to let Alberta control its own export-import rules or directly negotiate trade deals for its resources? And how would that concretely boost our economy and export competitiveness? Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Premier Smith, your government anti-trans legislation has been condemned.
Sorry. You don't get your 15 minutes of fame tonight. Sorry. Let's go over here.
Might be the last question. I just asked
Go
you
ahead.
to speak directly to the mic.
Go ahead.
Blaine Sellers, Calgary, and more specifically Bridgeland. In 1867, in a colonial era, upper-class people designed a top-down democracy that was suited to the travel and communication realities of the time. In 2025, in a technological era that gives everyone unlimited access to information, video conferencing that transcends travel, and diverse communication capabilities, our woefully outdated democracy needs to be redesigned to match the pace and complexity of our times. I ask, if we Albertans don't lead the creation of such a democracy now, then who will do it and when?
Okay, thanks, Blaine. So I wonder if I might put Grant Fagerheim on the spot here a little bit from the oil and gas sector to say, a lot of talk about dealing with Ottawa, about the differences. You've been in business a long time in the industry of the engine that drives the economy in this province. What is it like dealing with these two levels of government? What would you say that people might not see that you get to see up close?
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. And just to everyone here, as Andrew had referenced earlier, this is people are highly passionate about their province, and they should be, about controlling our resources, both on the natural resources as well as our financial resources, for the benefit of Albertans firstly, but for all Canadians. And we're not afraid to share, from a constitutional perspective, the resources that we do have, just being allowed to develop them. Rebecca referenced the Impact Assessment Act, the Bill C-69, No More Pipelines, the tanker ban. These are things that, Danielle, we're fortunate that our Premier, Danielle Smith, is fighting for on behalf of all Albertans. So when I look at all of these, the overreach that does take place federally from a constitutional perspective, my comment always comes back to the federal government should not have a say in provincial affairs unless a province has a say in federal affairs.
Thanks, Grant. We're going to go over here. Go ahead.
Right now, okay.
Yep. Just introduce yourself and where you go.
Premier, I'm asking this difficult question publicly tonight because I have been ignored by the very party that I voted for. I am a victim of the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta, who operate under your provincial leadership. Right now, there is not a lot of accountability for doctors. In fact, multiple doctors have been charged with crimes such as the possession and dissemination of...
Can I get Minister Nally or Minister McDougall or Eric Bouchard to help this lady? You've got an issue. We'll try to help you, but we're going to try and stay on topic, okay? Over here on constitutional changes, I know you see it. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Nicole Watkins. I'm from Okotoks. And I have a comment and a question. My first comment is that I do not believe we've ever had a premier in decades that has the capability, that has the articulate for prowess to be able to deliver what we need as Albertans to the Government of Canada. I believe Danielle Smith has stood up for Alberta, and specifically long and hard for 6, 8, 10 years, and has clawed her way up to this level, but she has not done so on the piggybacking of anybody. She works long, she works hard. Oh, sorry, that was my compliment. Okay.
Okay.
I'm surprised, I'll never say him. Okay, so here's my question.
Real quick.
I don't believe in separatism.
Okay.
People don't understand it. There's not enough information about it.
Okay.
I do not believe we should be the 51st state.
Gotcha.
Okay, my question is this. At what date will Alberta serve notice to the federal government that we are enacting our rights as a sovereign province through our premier?
Okay. We're up to 2 minutes or so. Premier, can you close this one off, and then we've got to move on.
Well, I will. We've had the young communists join us for a couple of our Alberta Next town halls, and I just encourage them to look at Venezuela, that has probably the largest resource wealth on the planet, but they can't develop it because there's no innovation, no capital, and no interest in investing in that economy. That's what happens when you subvert those who have the capital and the know-how to be able to do it. You just don't end up developing the wealth. I'd also say that the issue around the Constitution, whether it should be open or not, I understand the skepticism. I was on the yes side of the Charlottetown Accord referendum back in 1993, and it ended up failing at the time. And I think people just thought, we cannot do these grand bargains where we're trying to get everyone around a table to compromise. And so I think nobody's tried for over 30 years now. And so that's the question. Is it worth trying? Because there really is no other way to get the kind of fairness we're talking about with the Senate, with the House of Commons, and with some of the other things in that video without going to some kind of constitutional table. That being said, the Constitution has been changed bilaterally. Quebec managed to get the House of Commons to recognize them as a distinct society. And so they were able to do that bilaterally. Nunavut was created as a separate jurisdiction and just recently got some devolution of powers around the resources. And again, that was done bilaterally. So it is possible that some of the things that we could do would be done bilaterally. But this is part of the reason we are consulting on this one, is that we just want to see if there's an appetite for us to get into a big, broad-based constitutional discussion. I do think the other provinces have the same frustration that I do, and that may be the difference that we have right now. It's not just Quebec, it's also Saskatchewan, it's also British Columbia. It's also, quite frankly, even some of the issues being raised in Manitoba and Ontario as well. So I can tell you that we have a lot of common cause around the Premier's table about how much the federal government has overreached. And so that may be the moment in time. That may be the opportunity that we have. When it comes to the issue of how we make our decisions, we have a hybrid here in Alberta. Part of the reason why we embrace things like recall, initiative, citizen-initiated referenda and general referenda is because that's the way that you have the direct democracy. That's why we do these town halls, and why a few of the ideas that we're talking about, if we want to move forward of them, we want an affirmation from the people of Alberta. There aren't very many jurisdictions that do that. The one jurisdiction that uses this mechanism the most happens to be California, and so our bars for signatures are a little bit higher than what they have in California, but they regularly have 10 or 12 different initiatives on their ballots, and they're not really known as being a very conservative jurisdiction. It's just a mechanism for the people to put forward what they like. So I hope that we've been able to find that balance. We can do some of those things without constitutional change, but true enough, to be able to get some of the other changes we're talking about, it would require some constitutional amendments.
Excellent. Here's the question. Should Alberta take a lead role in working with other provinces to pressure the federal government to amend the Canadian Constitution to empower and better protect provincial rights? Who says yes? And who says you like them just the way they are? Not very many. So the next video, I just want to say to the lines, got to clear the lines, because the next video is, I can guarantee, is going to spark a lot of emotion. People want to speak to it. So the next video is on immigration reform.
Our next topic is Alberta taking more control of the immigration system to counter Ottawa's open border policies, which are driving up the cost of living and are not aligned with the needs of Alberta's economy. In just over 100 years, Alberta's population has grown from a few 100,000 farmers, ranchers, and First Nations peoples to a province of over 5 million, with one of the most prosperous economies in the world. This great success story would not have been possible without new Albertans moving here from all over the world. That is why Alberta has always welcomed newcomers looking to contribute to our province's economic success and unique culture. And we always will. However, as all Canadians intuitively understand, the number of newcomers entering the country each year needs to be sustainable, and everyone wanting to come should be committed to upholding the Canadian values of hard work, love of freedom, and peaceful coexistence. Sadly, Justin Trudeau's Liberals upended Canada's immigration system for over a decade by instituting an open borders policy that permitted millions to enter Canada each year, often without any sort of proper vetting, job prospects, or needed employment skills. The results have been disastrous. Housing prices have skyrocketed. Unemployment keeps increasing as immigration outpaces job growth. And sadly, many of the divisions and disputes that plague other countries have begun making their way into ours. Further, Ottawa has ignored the request of Alberta to cut refugee claimants and student visas, and instead permit Alberta, like Quebec, to select a more sustainable and targeted number of economic migrants better able to contribute to our province's economy. What can Alberta do about the situation? Quite a bit, actually. You see, under the Constitution, immigration is a shared area of responsibility between the federal and provincial governments, which makes sense. Essentially, the federal government gets to decide who they let into Canada, but it's up to the provinces to provide the vast majority of the social programs that newcomers need. So obviously, we should have a say about who is coming here. If Alberta isn't satisfied with the number or economic qualifications of newcomers moving to our province, we may have the option to withhold provincial social programs to any non-citizen or non-permanent resident who does not have an Alberta-approved immigration status. This would likely encourage more sustainable numbers of immigration overall, while supporting the entry of newcomers that can contribute to our provincial economy. If Alberta went this direction, Ottawa could decide to fight Alberta on this issue in the courts, and there would be some additional costs in taking a more hands-on approach to immigration. However, much, if not all of that cost, could be offset in corresponding savings to our social programs. So, should Alberta take more control of the immigration system in this way, or continue with the status quo? And how can our province convince Ottawa to act more responsibly with their immigration policies in the future?
Okay. Dr. Benny, would you kick us off on immigration reform and tell a little bit about your story about when you came here with your family, what it's like today, and bonus points for telling an impactful story quickly.
Thank you, Bruce. Sure, I can do it. So I come from a traditional Chinese medicine family 33 years ago. And, we made Calgary our home ever since, so we never left. So 33 years ago, when I first came here, there was quite a bit of program helping me to settle in, helping the talents to match the needs, and so we can contribute and give back to the community. So if you look at today's program, it seems like the federal government is focusing more on the game of numbers, how many people we coming in instead of matching the talents and the needs. We got employers cannot find quality employees, and we got newcomers just can never find jobs. Some of them don't even try because there's benefits of not even trying. So there's clearly a mismatch or disconnect between what we need and who's coming. So I will say, Bruce, we need an immigration reform.
Yeah.
Period.
Thank you. So you're such a gentleman, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Is it worse today than when you came?
It's not even comparable, I would say.
Okay. Start over here tonight. Thanks, Dr. Betty.
Good evening. I'm Ernesto from Calgary. This is my question. In the last 2 decades, the government of Alberta relied heavily on immigrants to fill labor shortages across industries like oil and gas, transportation, construction, hospitality, health, etc. What is the government doing to better match skilled immigrants with local job opportunities, such as recognition of foreign credentials? Thank you.
Yeah. That's one question we're going to write down. I know the Premier is going to cover it shortly, but let's go here.
Hello, good evening. My name is Phil, and I live in Canmore.
Hi, Phil.
And I'm using immigration to point out what I think is the sham of this panel. All these people here are from Calgary area. The Minister of Immigration received a mandate letter that says he or she should work towards achieving a more sustainable level of immigration with a focus on economic migrants able to contribute to the growth of our economy. Now, if you've been paying attention to the video, you will have seen exactly those same words on the screen. Why is the panel in such a hurry to ignore the opinions of this room and issue that mandate letter to the minister?
Thank you.
Premier Smith, I am very disappointed in you.
Phil, I think you're about to find out where we're very much considering the opinions of this room. Let's go over here.
Good evening, Premier and panel members. Thanks very much for your contribution to bring Alberta development. My name is Michael. I live in Calgary for 7 years. As a drone company manufacturers, and we hired some prevalent, high-skilled workers from our universities. Now, they usually have 3 years work permit, but now our current policy is still is very slow. They didn't get their response, even for 3 years. I think we should keep them. My question is that our government has some policy to accelerate the application time. Thank you so much.
Okay. Premier, maybe we should address this because it's a question we get asked at every town hall that we do, and it's about finding the appropriate professional jobs for the people that are already accredited when they get here, and questions to that nature.
Well, I can tell you that my mandate to the immigration minister has been the same from when I first got elected, and that was to try to expand the number of permanent resident nominees that we have. I looked at what happened in Quebec and in Manitoba, and relative to their population, they have way more residents that they're able to nominate. And it's worked for us because our provincial streams are all economic streams, and what we're finding right now is they're overwhelmed. Unfortunately, the federal government last year cut our number of nominees from 10,000 down to 4,800. And so we're hearing from everyone, from including the gentleman that was just speaking, about how difficult that's going to be able to maintain their workforce. So the question will be whether we should take over more than that, whether we should be more aspirational. And so that's part of what we're consulting on, is what should be the right number of newcomers to come to Alberta, and what should be the relative percentage of those who are here for work versus student versus asylum seekers. I can tell you, part of the reason why we had to do this consultation is that we used to have a level of immigration that was very manageable. Between 2009 and 2019, it was about 0.6% of the population, so less than about 300,000 people. But last year, there was 1.8 million people who came into Canada. And this year, I understand we're on track for 2 million people. And so you're kind of wondering, well, why can't you find a family doctor? Why can't kids get a first job? Why are schools under such pressure? Why are we seeing housing prices go up, rental prices go up? It's because you just simply can't build fast enough to be able to accommodate an influx of newcomers coming at that level, and our social programs just get under too much pressure. And so that's what we're trying to figure out, is what is the right level? Should we go back to something closer to 1% of the population? or should we maintain this level? And I think we're hearing from people about what the impact has been. But there is no question that we have had a lot of success in our permanent resident nominee program, and that's part of the reason why I think we should be doing more of that we can build on that success.
Terrific. You know, go ahead, yeah. We also have a first-generation immigrant on the panel who is a family doctor. And so, Dr. Aiken, if I could you marry the two of these together? Albertans are having a tough time finding doctors, despite the fact that Alberta has attracted more, hundreds more than most places, but the population is a big reason why. So your story and what you're seeing.
Hello, hi there. My name is Dr. Aiken Osakwadi. I'm a family doctor. I'm based out of Didsbury. And I moved to Alberta about 10 years ago, and I'm amazed about the awesome generosity and the grace that Albertans show to newcomers. I was welcomed, my family was welcomed, I had a job, and I started my job, and I've had a wonderful experience. And that is the beauty, that's the Alberta dream, where it works for both parties. The individuals who's coming, the new people, and the established population. But since 2020, what's happened has been just this unvetted, unregulated, uncontrolled immigration rise, which has overwhelmed our social services, our healthcare, our education, and it's not sustainable. And what we're looking for is a sustainable immigration way. You know, in our constitution, Section 95 of our constitution says that the provinces should take the lead role on immigration, and the federal government should only do it from time to time. It's time to kick Ottawa out of immigration. This is not about anti-immigration. This is about sustainable immigration, sustainable numbers, and enacting what is in the Constitution. The provinces should determine the number, the scale, and the type of immigration, not Ottawa. It's time to return immigration back to the provinces. Since they provide the services, they should determine the numbers. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Aiken. Go ahead. Right out front.
Hi, my name is Carol, and I'm an immigrant. I came to Alberta in 1980. I've worked in healthcare all my life. My husband's small business employed many people. I believe that immigration should align with job vacancies that cannot be filled by Albertans. And compassionately, we should allow a small number of refugees, which should be supported by the government who brought them, which currently is the federal government. Premier Smith, you said that when the panel has finished its work, it will recommend which of these ideas will be put to the people of Alberta for a referendum vote in 2026. So my question is, if the majority of the survey respondents accept or reject any of these ideas, will you still have a referendum? In which case, what's the point of us being here? And isn't an election the usual way Albertans make their voices heard? Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Premier, now or in a minute?
I'll just say that there are some issues that I feel like we are getting enough of a consensus that we may be able to move on. Some we may reject, and others that will have to be put to the people. And so that's what we have our panel deliberation about. And so this will be our last in person. We have another one online on Wednesday. And then we'll be meeting as a group to figure out which pathway we're going to go with all of the ideas that we heard.
Excellent. We still have a couple of long lineups, so let's go over here.
I have a software company, and our software is sold to more than 6,000 customers in over 40 countries. And we are having difficulty hiring top talents. And I hope our Premier will quickly get more say in immigration and bring in more skilled immigrants.
Nice. You, sir. Yep.
Hi, James from Calgary. The UCP says that immigrants are to blame for driving up the cost of living. I think it's rich coming from a government that has not increased the minimum wage in the province for 7 years. Alberta is soon to be the province with the lowest minimum wage in the country. The grocery monopolies are artificially increasing their prices. Real estate companies are still hoarding empty homes to speculate on the housing market, neither of which have anything to do with immigrants. These politicians want us fighting each other, because I know that if Albertans and immigrants come together to fight for the quality of life that is possible with the vast wealth that they hoard, these politicians and the bosses they defend would lose. If you want to build a working class movement that can take back the wealth that is rightfully ours to build a better world for all of us, come to the Revolutionary Communist Party.
Maybe you and your friends should immigrate. Let's go over here.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for the Deerfoot expansion, unfortunately, and it already feels overcrowded with many Uber drivers, so please just stop changing class 4 licensed drivers from other provinces. I immigrate from Argentina, I live in Israel, Montreal, and finally have 20 years in Canada. Just yesterday, I should say goodbye to my daughter. She's moved to Germany to study artificial intelligence. There is no courses of that here. And my son is finishing the university by the end of the year and probably is going to be unemployed too. So I just wonder if is this the right place to immigrate, that you're going to help me to protect my family.
Okay. Thank you. How about you?
Hello, it's Christine from Calgary. I'm certified immigration consultant. So my question is, what type of the newcomers does Alberta Next want to continue to welcome? What kind of specific sector? Just like a work class? How about entrepreneur? Can we just like have some investments people come to Alberta and bring the money, and we can keep their money for years and then let them stay in Alberta, and we use those money to build our provincial. My next question is, can we just lower down those one race? Can we give the quota to different diversity country rather than just like one race reach so high?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the questions. Samita Anand is the chair of the Premier's Council on Multiculturalism. We've been traveling the province. It's been remarkable. What would you add to this conversation from your first immigrant family status and what you've heard, Sumita?
Thank you, Bruce. Sorry, I've been making notes throughout the 10 town halls we've been traveling, and I've shared those notes with the Grand Prairie audience, Albertans, and I'd like to share those same notes with fellow Calgarians here. You've been an amazing audience, and Bruce, I'll try to keep this as short as possible. This is not so much about immigration and who to select and who not. I think this is more about a balance for Alberta's future. When my family and I came to Alberta many years ago, we were welcomed with opportunities that allowed us to build a better life. Someone had created a job that I could take. That job helped us find stability, support our family, and contribute to the economy. We were also able to find affordable housing, which helped us settle and put down roots. That experience wasn't about me or my family. It's a story shared by many immigrants who came here with hope and worked hard to build a future. We are not separate from Alberta. We are Alberta. Immigrants are a key fabric of this province, contributing skills, businesses, culture, and community. This is not about us and them, or about pointing fingers at new arrivals. This is about all of us, together taking a hard look at what's changed. Over time, I've seen a growing imbalance. On one side, there are immigrants who come to create jobs, entrepreneurs, investors, and small business owners. On the other side, there are many more who come seeking jobs, but the opportunities haven't kept pace with the demand. That imbalance is now putting pressure on our economy, our housing market, and our social services. We must ask ourselves this question: will our children and grandchildren have the same opportunities we had? Right now, the answer is not clear. And that should concern all of us. I believe it's time to have an honest conversation, not to close doors, but to put thoughtful checks and balances in place, both on international immigration and interprovincial migration. We need policies that reflect Alberta's real capacity to create enough jobs, build enough homes, and offer a future that's fair and sustainable for everyone. Let's work together where opportunity is something we can pass on, just as it was passed on to us. I'm sure you'll all agree.
I'd like to get through a few more here, and I'm going to wind up calling all of you back, but let's start here.
Premier Smith, my name is Yang Yue. I am from Calgary. Last March, Alberta opened a dedicated immigration stream for the tourist and hospitality sector. Yet this year, almost no nomination spots have been allocated to it. Many candidates in the Alberta EOI pool held work permits that are only valid for 2 years and are now expiring. These are people who pay taxes here, who have bought homes, whose children are in our schools. They built their lives in Alberta and made real contributions to our tourist and hospitality sector. Without timely nominations, we risk losing this skilled and experienced workforce at a time when Alberta needs them most. Acting now would show that Alberta values the people who have already invested their future in our province. Is there anything we can do to make that happen? Thank you.
Thank you. Premier, can I ask you to close this one off?
Let me see if I can answer. I mean, if you want to know the framework I'm thinking of, and this is what I think would answer a lot of the questions being raised here, is if we were to go back to a level of migration of 1% of our population, that'd be 50,000 people. And if we had the ability to choose through our permanent residence program to nominate 35,000 of them, then that would be the kind of balance that I think would make sense. And it's the kind of thing that we see in other jurisdictions like Quebec. Quebec actually nominates 55%, but they want to nominate all of them. But when you look at what we actually have the ability to nominate, it was only 4,800. And so that's why all of our streams are oversubscribed. Somebody asked the streams that we have. We do have an express stream for those who have strong ties to Alberta and can contribute to economic development. There's an opportunity stream, and that's for temporary foreign workers who have a full-time job in an eligible category. Healthcare stream, rural renewal stream, so that's largely for agriculture workers. We do allow for international graduates from a Canadian university, skilled and semi-skilled workers, entrepreneurs, and other high-demand occupations. So we have, I think, the right program. We just don't have the ability to nominate enough people in them, and that includes the tourism stream. So I'll take that away to see if there's something in particular that is causing a problem in getting nominees in that stream. But the real problem is we probably have about 20 or 30,000 people who are seeking this nomination status, and we only have 4,800 that we can approve. That would be one thing I would say. To the gentleman on AI, I can tell you we have one of the foremost experts on artificial intelligence at the University of Alberta. He just won the Turing Award, which is the most prestigious award in AI. And we also have AMI, which is our Alberta Machine Learning Institute, which is world-renowned. So I think maybe we can attract your daughter back here if you just let her know. Maybe not Calgary. Calgary's got, we'll have to see if we can get them to catch up a little bit. But maybe at the University of Alberta, that might be the place to end up going there. And I think I answered all of the questions. I don't know if I missed any of them. But that is what we're seeking the input on, is do we go back to what the original intention of the Constitution was, which is that immigration should be principally led by the provinces, with Ottawa making rules from time to time, which is the language in there. Right now it's completely flipped, where Ottawa makes all the rules and we barely are able to have any input on it. And I think that's what's caused the mismatch.
I think I know where this is going to go, but I'll ask anyway. Should Alberta take more control of the immigration system to counter Ottawa's open border policies? Who says yes? Who thinks the immigration system is working just fine like it is? Amazing. Okay, let's watch a video on provincial tax collection.
Our next topic is the option of Alberta collecting all provincial personal income taxes, rather than having Ottawa do it for us. Today, when Albertans file and pay their personal income taxes, they do so through the Canada Revenue Agency, which then remits the provincial portion of those personal income taxes back to the provincial government. However, Alberta businesses file and pay their provincial corporate taxes directly to the provincial government. Quebec does it differently. They collect both personal and corporate income taxes directly from Quebecers, bypassing the CRA altogether. What if Alberta did the same? There would definitely be startup and ongoing administration costs, but it would also mean bringing good-paying jobs to Alberta instead of funding federal employees in other parts of the country. Under Canada's Constitution, levying and collecting taxes is an area of provincial jurisdiction, and Alberta could transition over the coming years to collecting our personal income taxes, as we do with corporate taxes now. So what are some of the benefits to Alberta collecting its own personal income taxes? 1. Better provincial tax policy. Currently, Alberta sets its own tax rates and credits, but definitions and treatments of income are still largely tied to federal rules, which limits our flexibility to implement more effective and competitive tax policy. We saw this recently when the federal government changed the rules on capital gains for doctors and other professionals, and Alberta was effectively forced to follow those same rules as it related to provincial personal income taxes. If Alberta were to collect its own taxes, we could tailor our entire tax framework to better reflect our economic realities and provincial policy goals, while declining federal changes to certain portions of tax policies that detrimentally affect provincial income tax policy. This could open the door to streamlining calculations and simplifying provincial income taxes for Alberta residents. 2. Jobs and economic opportunity at home. Collecting our own taxes would also mean establishing the infrastructure and staffing to support it, creating thousands of good, high-paying jobs right here in Alberta, instead of funding positions in Ottawa or other provinces. 3. More Alberta, less Ottawa. By moving away from the federal administration of the CRA and collecting provincial income taxes by ourselves, Alberta can exercise more direct control over a core aspect of self-government, thereby increasing our provincial independence from Ottawa. But there are also potential drawbacks to consider. 1. A long-term commitment. Establishing Alberta's own personal income tax collection agency would not happen overnight. Estimates suggest it could take up to 5 years to fully build out the necessary systems and staffing. This would be a major logistical undertaking that would require a sustained commitment from Albertans and their government. 2. Significant financial investment. The estimated cost to implement Alberta's own tax agency ranges from $750 million to $1.5 billion over several years. Once operational, the system could cost up to $750 million annually and require hiring as many as 5,000 new public employees. These are substantial expenses that must be weighed against the benefits. 3. Potential for added complexity. There are also practical implications for taxpayers and businesses. Albertans would need to file separate federal and provincial tax forms, although online filing would likely ease that burden. There may also be increased complexities for businesses and Albertans working in different provinces throughout the year. Now, tell us what you think about the idea of Alberta collecting its own personal income taxes.
Okay, on this subject, this just blows me away. On this subject or any other that you wanted to get to the mic on tonight and you didn't, so the previous videos as well, and we'll get it going, okay? First, you know, we haven't heard from Adam Legg yet tonight, and it's funny because he's like the president of the Business Council of Alberta. So, you know, on this issue, Adam, I wonder if you'd weigh in and just in general on the tour.
Thanks, Bruce, and thank you for joining us this evening, everybody, sharing your views. really, I mean, something like this is about competitiveness. It's about being able to attract and retain the best people, making Alberta the most attractive place to live and to work. Because if we collect our own personal income taxes, that's an ability for Alberta to chart its own course with respect to tax structures, tax rates, etc. And that could be a differentiator for my members, the companies of Alberta, to say, come to Alberta, stay in Alberta, we've got the most competitive tax jurisdiction. For example, when the federal government decided to increase capital gains taxes, if Alberta was collecting its own personal income taxes, we could just say, sorry, no, not doing that, and we could make our own decisions on what we want to do on the capital gains tax. So that's a competitive advantage. I'd also say other things like the pension plan also have a competitiveness aspect of it. The immigration piece is a critical piece for being able to pick the right people around the world to fit the roles that we have in demand for Alberta companies. And so there's lots here that is really about competitiveness, keeping Alberta as competitive and attractive as possible compared to other provinces and other countries. And finally, I think the entire initiative is really about addressing fairness and functionality of the country, which needs a lot of work right now.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Okay, on this subject or the other 5 videos that you saw tonight?
Hi, I'm from Calgary. I was born here. I've lived here all of my life. I get the impression that lots of people here would like to cut out the federal government entirely. I get the impression that some people here are separatists. Others might even want to join the 51st state. However, I would say that if you still love your country like I do, I would like you to stand up and join me in singing, "Oh, Canada,
thank you so
our
much.
home and native land."
That's very nice. Thank you. Thank you. Can we come over to this microphone? It's beautiful.
Is it my turn?
It is your turn.
Okay.
You go ahead.
Okay, good evening. Premier and panel members, good evening. I'm a chartered professional accountant. In my idea, I totally support. I think for Alberta to collect its own tax is a gorgeous idea, not just for corporate tax, but also personal income tax. Because by that way, we can use all the funds directly into Alberta. So that way we can grow our economy and also build up more jobs for Albertans. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think please put this into action as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the comment. Let's go to this microphone.
No, a question about immigration.
Go ahead. Yep, right here, up front. Do you have a question? Maybe not. Hello.
Well, maybe I'll just comment, Bruce, if I could, on a couple of things, because I think it's some have made reference to the European Union in their various town halls, and that I think is the kind of model that is being contemplated, where if you look at how the EU is established, the countries they all take in their own taxes and then they remit to their central authority a very small percentage. It's actually quite a small amount that they end up sending to support the operations of the EU. The EU has a lot more control over regulation, so that's their saw-off, but when it comes to transfers, it actually is not that significant by comparison to what we have here. I think I met with Austria, for instance. They're a similar size country to ours, and the difference is extraordinary. So the amount of tax revenue we send from all sources to Ottawa is something in the order of $50 billion a year. In Austria, it's about $5 billion that they send to their central authority. So I just wanted to give you a sense of the difference in tax structure that they have in the EU. So when people say that that is the model that we should potentially look at, it would be difficult to do because we'd have to get the federal government to agree to let us collect their taxes on their behalf. But you can see what happens because they collect so much taxes, they also overtax us, and then it becomes hard to get the transfers back here.
Thank you, Premier. Ready over here now? Okay.
Good evening, panelists. My name is Marina. I live in Calgary. Alberta and gas oil companies are expected to make $69 billion in profits in 2025, while across the province, municipalities are owed over $250 million in unpaid property taxes from some of these companies. Danielle Smith's Minister of Agriculture said it himself, their job is to make a fair playing field for industry. What about the Albertans who work and live here? We create all that wealth and it should be under our democratic control to use for our benefit. Instead, billions are hoarded in offshore accounts because it's simply not profitable to invest in development due to the global crisis of overproduction. This is only a crisis within the limits of capitalism. With democratically planned...
I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I was surprised to see this about the taxes because I always think that conservative governments want to cut bureaucracy, but this looks like building more. So no to Alberta separation, Alberta pension plan, police, and tax office. I was dismayed about what I see as anti-immigrant rhetoric. I don't think that people are going to necessarily stay where you put them. We have freedom in Canada to move from province to province.
I just got to stop you for a second. The anti-immigrant thing, like, I just can't leave that hanging. Nobody is talking down to an immigrant. People are saying that maybe there's too many coming too fast, okay? So we've heard about enough of that. And if it's the same thing in this line, forget it. We've heard about enough of you, too. Hey, Glenn, as an MLA in rural Alberta, Glenn, can you give some context from traveling around this province? Obviously, these few voices don't represent what we've heard. These people sitting here represent what we've heard. Could you put into context sort of what you've heard and where you see us with Ottawa?
Okay, thank you, Bruce. And one thing that I've learned over the town halls that we've been able to do is that there's many differing opinions, and that's good. At the end of the day, it is about listening and trying to understand the direction that Albertans are looking for their leaders to actually move in a direction. What's being discussed at these town halls is essentially discussions over authorities within the current constitution that we currently have, if we choose as Albertans to move down in those directions. The discussion around policing, the discussion around taxation, the discussion around pension, immigration, these are all currently authorities within the current constitution that Albertans can choose to, as Quebec has chosen to, take more authority in. And it's too bad that Michael Binion's not here tonight. He's done a paper. It's getting peer-reviewed right now with regards to Quebec's responsible self-governance and how that's allowed them to move forward in a direction of being a distinct society within Canada, a nation within a nation, however you want to term that. So I think for myself, I do believe there's a lot of Albertans that are ready to move forward in these certain areas. Some of it is fear versus faith. Do we have faith in Albertans to be able to do as good a job or a better job than what we currently have under the federal government doing? So I think that's largely the question that's before us is, do we have the faith in Alberta and Albertans to be able to take over and do more of the powers that are available to it within the current constitution?
Yep. Thank you, Glenn. So good. You know, I usually ask my friend Stephen Buffalo here about policing because in some of his communities it's done differently, and there's a broad variety of dealing with many issues. So I'd be remiss if we didn't ask you, Stephen, before the end of the night, like your take. Obviously, the Indigenous population is significant in Alberta. On this panel, participating in what you've heard.
Thank you, Bruce, and of course, thank everyone for sticking around, staying. A lot of things to talk about, and I feel your passion. But first off, I'll say about the policing, there's 3 communities in southern Alberta that are currently utilizing their own policing units. Tatuna here, that's quite visual, Blood Tribe, and Siksika is working on something. The other part is, in respect to some of the constitutional changes and the desire to see separatism here in Canada, it's just not going to work. There's treaties that were here before the province, Treaty 6, 7, and 8. And, right now, the Supreme Court acknowledges these treaties, and our rights have been kind of recognized. And not too long ago, the reserve just east of here, the Siksika Nation, because of treaty and a specific claim, they got $1.3 billion over a long, lengthy court battle. They put $400 million into this Alberta economy. They spent money here. More communities in the north are being settled through this cows and plows that we were supposed to be farmers when we were a treaty before the NRTA, before the province. We were supposed to be farmers. They didn't fill out that mandate. So now the government is settling on some of these things under the treaty rates, and they're spending that money in Alberta. So it's very important that we recognize and continue to work. So these 6 items we talked about tonight, I see a path forward, but it takes strong leadership on both sides to go down that alley. To talk anymore about separation, Alberta walking away, it's like looking for a Tootsie Roll in a septic tank. It's just not good work.
Stephen never hesitates to tell us how he feels. It's been interesting traveling with him. Premier, can you close us off with some thoughts on the panel on tonight and what we've heard?
Well, trying to bridge the divide. That's what I always try to do after all the great input tonight. And so I guess what I would say is that even with the Communist Party who is here this evening, I would say that maybe they should join us in wanting to build pipelines and develop our resources, because you can't get this product to market by teleportation. You actually need to build the infrastructure in order to do it. And to this point, I haven't seen the communists stand up and say that we should be building things like a Northern Gateway 2.0 or the Energy East or the Keystone XL. And why does that matter? Because if you want to develop the revenues in order to be able to pay for the things we all care about, which is education, healthcare, infrastructure, you have to generate the wealth to be able to do it. We've been going down a path for the past 10 years where governments in Ottawa felt that they could just create money out of thin air. It's led to the inflation crisis. It has led to the decline in our standard of living. It's led to fleeing capital, and is part of the reason why we had, at the beginning of this evening, somebody talking about the very serious danger that the federal government might become unviable. We have to get back to the idea that you have to create wealth before you can spend it. And one of the things that I'm so very proud of, and Stephen Buffalo is intimately acquainted with the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation, is we're now doing that in partnership with First Nations, taking an equity stake so that they can also develop the resources and be able to get the benefit from that. And that is, I think, a model and a vision about how to develop resources in a bit of a different way that we've been pioneering. So I guess the way I'd put this to you is to think about the lost opportunity of the last 10 years. If we had built those 3 pipelines I mentioned, we would be generating 2.5 million barrels of oil per day more than today, which would be generating about $55 billion worth of revenue, of which governments take about 40%. The feds get about half and we get about half. You can solve a lot of problems with that kind of wealth. That's the reason why I think the frustration has been around the province, because we cannot have the next 10 years be as damaging as the last 10 years were. And by being able, by being able to reset that relationship and maybe take over a few more powers, maybe be a little bit more like Quebec when it comes down the pathway of responsible government, maybe we'll end up having a federation that works as it was always intended to by the people who drafted our Constitution and amended it over the years. So thank you for participating in the robust discussion. We're very glad to have had your input tonight. And back over to you, Bruce.
Thank you. I just want to thank you as well, and just from a moderator's perspective, like the great majority of people that come to these things are fabulous. Even those that disagree. You can disagree without being disagreeable. But these days it seems like people tell you not to do these things because, oh, you never know who's going to come or what they're going to say. But we've got a premier that doesn't work like that. She said these things are important, and we're going to do these town halls. So thank you all for hanging in, for being here tonight, for participating, and see you again. Thank you.